All right, so let's go ahead and get his arms on there. A lot of different ways you can do that. You can just like mask in here. Hold on, go to mask pin. Oh, okay, that's okay. Let's talk about object dimming. So you're going to see when I have the feet selected or I have the body selected, they don't dim anymore. That's because these little paintbrushes are on. So now when I switch back and forth, you're going to see the socks get lighter, then the body gets lighter depending on what's selected. If you go to Preferences, Edit, you're going to see Inactive Subtool Dimming. That's what's causing that, and it only works if your poly paint isn't on. If you have a poly paint brush turned on, it overrides that, and now it only shows your poly paint. So hold down Shift, turn off the brushes. That'll turn off the poly paints for all your subtools, and that'll make it a little bit easier to know what you have selected. I'm just holding down Alt and tapping to select my subtools instead of going over here. So to get his arms on there, we can hold down Control. You can just mask a thing out. You can go in here to transpose, Dynamesh that, make his arms, and you can kind of mask this and then kind of drag this out, inflate it, smooth it, whatever you need to do to make arms. Another way to do that is just to go to BC, and we'll grab the curved tube, and we can just grab a tube and just kind of pull arms out like that, and then we can go and just kind of move these back. If these are the arms I like, that's one way to go about doing it. If you want to be a little fancy, you could drop a work plane back in here just by appending a plane. Let's go and turn off LCM when we're not using it. And you can just draw it right on the plane, but this is good enough. So what I'm going to do is say, I like this. I'm going to tap on the object to get rid of that little dotted line, which is the curve. I'm going to do a quick split, unmask points again. I'm going to hit Z to bring this back. So now we got our arms and our body in a separate subtool. So I'm going to hit Z to toggle widget mode off, and I'm going to put them over here, and now I'm going to reposition these arms a little bit better. So I'm going to go into move mode. His shoulders are about yay, thereabouts. I'm going to rotate these arms down, and then just really quickly just grab the move brush and kind of position these arms into place. Cool. Key here, they need to be moved back a little bit. So I'm going to push these on back here-ish, and then we'll go to his back view, looking good. And at this point, it's, oh, the front view didn't match the back view, didn't match side view. You know what? Welcome to the world of development and concept. So you're just going to kind of have to eyeball it past a certain point and just make sure he looks right. Because 2D is only going to work from 2D. Shocking, I know, but that's usually how it works. So now that we got that, what I want to do is put these arms back on the body. Let's go ahead and go to the top. And while you're working in 3D, always work in the round and kind of evaluate from all sides and make sure everything's working. Looks good to me. So what I'm going to do is take the body up here, and I'm going to do a quick merge down. I'm going to merge his arms into his body here, hit OK. And now if I go in here, you're going to see I have my Dynamesh settings already set from what I did previously. So if I control drag, it's going to Dynamesh these together. And now I can go ahead and just smooth these out. I can go in here with my inflate brush, kind of inflate this up. Nice. Now, I could just make this a Dynamesh sculpt. This is just like I'm using clay. I am going to get a little bit more into panel loops and box model-y type things just to make him nice and super clean, kind of cartoony. But for now, I'm just kind of getting his body blocked out. So I'm going to rotate him back, and his feet aren't going to follow. So what I'm going to do is turn on polyframe here, and you're going to see his arms are actually a different poly group than his body. So if I hold down Control Shift, I can isolate them. I'm going to hit Control W to make it all one poly group. And that's basically polygroup mask clear mask. So if I had something masked and hit Control W, it makes a polygroup. If I have nothing masked and I hit Control W, it makes it all one polygroup, whatever's visible. And then I got my feet, little socks down here. I'm going to hit Control W, and temporarily I'm going to merge this down. You can use the merge button. I have a hotkey for it just to merge down. And now I'm going to rotate his whole body backwards because he's not standing very naturally. So you want to kind of give him a little bit of a natural stance. So you're going to see I'm kind of maxed out on my dynamic here. What dynamic means is I can basically go in here, I'm going to grab the clay brush, and I can I make a clay brush like this, right? And then if I back way out and I go in here, I make a clay brush, and it's the same size. If you have dynamic off, and how you turn that, I'll just hold down Shift and tap it. Now, when you do a clay brush here, it's going to be this size. As I zoom out, the brush size is actually going to get bigger relative to your object. So that's what that does in that case. When you have move, Alt W is my hotkey for move, and I have dynamic turned on, hold down Shift, it kind of maxes me out. Now there are preferences in here you can change, but just really quickly, I can hold down Shift and turn off dynamic, and now my move brush gets really big. Gives me a little bit more range. So I can just kind of go in here and go, you know what? He needs to kind of have a little arch on his back. and maybe kind of pull this forward. Because he's going to be having a backpack here, which is going to balance him out a little bit. So I'm going to kind of over-exaggerate this front part here. I'm going to go into my clay brush, just kind of brush this out, and then smooth this corner out. Because, you know, he started from a cylinder, but doesn't mean you have to make his body that cylindrical, although he is pretty cylindrical in the show. And kind of just soften these out. So again, we're just kind of brushing and softening. So smoothing, holding down Shift to smooth, and then using my clay brush to kind of brush out these shapes. Looking good. A little bit as natural as I'm going to get this stance. Let's look at his head. Yep, his head's about right. Kind of pull this out. There we go. Okay, so his ears here, you can go in here and kind of inflate these and round these out. We are still working at a resolution of 64 on our Dynamesh, which is kind of low, but for a base body blockout, it's fine. Now, if I want to, oops, let's see if we did it. Did I Dynamesh those together? Okay. If I hold down Control Shift, I can still isolate his socks. I can do a quick split hidden, or for you could just do a here's split hidden in here. You could do split the parts, split to group split if you wanted to. Just be careful with group split, because if you have multiple polygroups on an object, like so, it will actually split this into its own polygroup, and sometimes that's not desirable. Another thing I like to do, after I split something off, ZBrush can sometimes tend to get a little bit crashy, like if I go in here and tap this thing. So what I like to do is hit Quick Save, and the hotkey for that is 9, and then I can just hit the comma key, go to Quick Save, and then double tap this to load it. Would you like to save changes? No, and then it'll just load it right back up.